Okay, hello everyone. Thanks for joining us today. This is Jesse Heller, the Marketing Director at Fade Business Systems Group. You're joining our webinar today on how to be more successful with sugar. Today we have Aaron Wine. He is our Senior Account Manager. He is a Senior Account Manager here at Fade BSG. He's going to be taking us through today's presentation. Throughout today's presentation, if you have any questions, please feel free to put them in the chat. You can ask things that have
we love questions.
Have relevance to our presentation, or you can ask things that are, may not have relevance, and maybe what you're seeing sparked an idea. Just put them in the chat box. We'll get to those as they come in. We'll do our best to answer them, and I'll monitor those and give them over to Aaron. So with that, Aaron, thanks so much for joining us. I'm going to toss it over to you, my friend. Take it away.
Yeah, actually, I was going to have you do the first slide, but and talk about the questions real quick. Yeah, just everybody ask questions. We love them. If we don't get them to today, we'll make sure to answer them via email after the webinar. So Jesse, do you want to take over some of the housekeeping on slide 2?
So in case you don't know, we're a sugar partner. Most of us on the call today are either a client of ours or someone that might be new to our company using sugar within your organization. So this might be your first webinar you've attended. We do these webinars all the time. We try to do a lot of stuff around enhancing sugar. And this year we were named the Sugar Global Partner of the Year, Global Reseller of the Year for 2018. We've been doing sugar a long time. It's the only CRM we support. We've got all kinds of certifications and experience running sugar. I'd like to say we have the most experienced sugar team in any partner that exists.
Ever.
And we've heard that before. We've got a lot of clients. We're based in LA, but we've got offices throughout the US. Aaron's based in Austin, Texas. We've got sales offices on the East Coast as well. We are known for not only our sugar experience, our CRM experience, but also our accounting software experience, ERP, marketing automation. We do a lot of custom solutions, and we've built, I think, over a dozen integrations for sugar to bring your existing software platforms into sugar, as well as all kinds of custom projects. So with that, Aaron?
Yeah, very good. Well, thanks for that. So I'm going to kind of go over today's agenda a bit. We've already gone over the overview of Fade BSG. I'm going to spend a little time talking about our new package of SugarCare, and then I'm going to get into some tips and tricks on productivity with SugarCRM. And the idea behind this webinar became apparent when, talking to a lot of people, you get a lot of documentation on clicking this button that does X, or doing this does Y, but we don't understand a lot of times why we're doing things or best ways to work with things. And I hear that a lot. I hear a couple things from people. A, we use sugar differently from everybody else, which pretty much everyone says. And the other thing is that we don't know how to best use some of our things in sugar. So I kind of want to have this webinar to show how I work. I work in sugar every day. I talk about sugar every day. So maybe some of my tips and tricks might progress towards what you need to do to be more lean and vital in your roles at whatever position you're at. So I'm going to talk about like some tips and tricks on setting up sugar to make it clean and working to be lean and fast. And then I'm going to kind of go through a bit of my daily cycle of how I work with lists. I'm going to use the tasks module and the accounts and contacts mainly, but the things I'm going to be talking about are going to apply to any process. I want to keep this, try to be as general as I can, but give you insight on how I am able to manage all my accounts and talk to all of my fine folks that I need to talk to. And then at the end, I'm going to give you a couple of things about the email integration that you may not be aware of. And then we'll just move to a general Q&A and finish up the awesome webinar. So that being said, I would like to show you my plain slide of SugarCare. Now, this is something that just came out in the last, I would say about a month that we put this together. And one of the things that we wanted to do was make it very easy for you to feel supported here at Fay with your SugarCRM. And so some of the things that we've heard is that people feel hesitant to reach out because they don't want to pay for extended support. You feel like you're going to be nickeled and dimed because you don't know how much support you're going to need. There's surprises on your budgets at that point, and general uncomfortableness on that. So we've put together 4 packages of SugarCare, and these packages have different platforms in them that have different items that you will have in your sugar support. But some of the things that we'll have in here, so for an annual fee, so you know exactly what you're paying every year, you're going to get Tier 1 and Tier 2 email and phone support. And depending on what package you're going to have, you're going to have things like users and security management, upgrade management. If you ever need a report or dashlet created, you could call in. There's monthly training classes on some of the packages. So again, as you are working with your staff or working with Sugar yourself, you can have that support per month of, hey, I need to train on reports, or I need just a general Q&A session, or I want my team to see how to do one of our processes in our Sugar, and we can set that up. And then one of the things that I'm very excited about on our SugarCare is the quarterly planning sessions, because one of the things I do hear from my accounts is that they feel they don't have the ability to fully use Sugar and fully use a CRM and fully integrate that with what they're working with. And so these quarterly planning sessions are going to be a way to talk about how you do things from birth to death and your life cycles, and work Sugar around that, so you can see the best ways to do things. Use our experience. So, and there's some other things in the SugarCare, and I'm sure you'll start getting some marketing information from me as I talk to you in my quarterly reach outs. But very cool product. I'm very excited about this. And if you're going to sink a lot of money into a CRM and integration into accounting, or whatever you're doing, there should be some money spent, so budget wisely on keeping that support and going. So that's my sales pitch for the day. Everything else should be tips and tricks that you should be able to use and enjoy with. So let's get going. All right. Let me see, did my button click? I'm waiting for my next page. My computer is acting a bit slow. Okay, so let's talk about setting up Sugar. I think Plato said the beginning is the most important part of the work, and having a strong foundation is definitely something that is something you want with your Sugar. So the first thing, let's talk about actually what kind of data that you're going to need. With Sugar out of the box, things load up. You get a lot of modules that you may or may not need. You get a lot of fields you may or may not need, and making sure that you have the modules and fields that you specifically need will help with not only user adoption, because your users won't be confused, but as well as just getting your stuff in really easy. And you'll notice that with Sugar, in any application on a computer, your screen real estate is going to be very tight and important. And so in a user experience kind of a way, we wanted to make sure that those screens have exactly what you need, so you don't need to scroll, you don't need to open up a new page. Try to keep it all on one page, and life will be doing amazing things for you. And so that kind of goes to my next point of getting rid of what you don't need. And then also taking advantage of user preferences in the intelligence panel. So, and I'll show you some tips and tricks on that here in a second. And then again, we want to use that real estate screen optimally. So my first one that I'm going to look at, where is that? Of course, oh, there we go. Here it is. All right, so I'm going to slide this over. Come on, computer. My computer is about to go kaput on me here, so excuse me while I try to load this up. So Jesse, do we have any questions so far while I'm waiting on my computer to respond?
Not yet, my friend.
All right, here we go. All right. So here's my first. So I'm in a sample version of Sugar, and what I want to do is where'd it go? All right, hold on one second. There we go. Get rid of that. All right, so here we have my Sugar. We don't want to clutter things up. So as you can see with I'm in the account module here, and you can see that I have a lot of unnecessary fields here. Going through what your business is, do I need the SIC code? Do I need a ticker symbol? You can see that having all this information open up, I now have to slide down to get to the sub panels, which I don't really want to do if that first sub panel can get to me what I need to do. So removing some of these fields would be great to get with some of that clutter, and you can do that in the admin panel to do that. So that's good. So let's keep that going. Sugar will remember your last settings on closing and opening panels, as well as let's talk about some of these sub panels here. So in order of preference, you'll notice that you probably want to have your most important sub panel at the top, because as I'm working, it's going to be the easiest thing to see here. So one thing you can do, and especially if this is opened up, it'll push everything down. And so you can't see really the other sub panels. So this is a user specific setting, but I can drag and drop the sub panel one time, and that will set for me exactly the order that I want. So in my preference, I'll put the first and second most important sub panels to me. And actually in my case, I put the most important sub panel to me at the top. But what I'll do is I'll put the very second most important at the very bottom. So let's say contacts is very important to me, and I'll push that at the very bottom here. And the reason why I want to do that is because when I'm working in Sugar, okay, here's my emails, I can work with my emails, here's my calls, but then I can quickly slide to the very bottom with the slide bar, and it will take me to the very bottom one, so I can quickly see exactly what I need to see without having to slide and try to find it, if that makes sense. Some of the other things we're going to want to do during the setup is in the menu bar itself. So I'm going to pull up my admin panel here and bring that over. And in the admin panel, as an administrator, I have the ability to display modules and subpanels. So I can remove the modules my company doesn't need to work with. And it's a simple drag and drop on that. Maybe I don't need documents, so I can bring documents over to the hidden modules, hit save, and documents is gone. Because what we want to do is have a very clean menu bar of modules that we need to work with. Now, for me specifically, let's say that I'm, as an account manager, I really don't care about data privacy or documents or campaigns. So what I can do is in my profile, and I'm going to hold my control key down when I click on a link, which will open up a new tab, because I like to have a lot of tab opens, and I'll explain a little bit more when I work through lists how we're doing with that. But in the profile here, if I click edit and go to my advanced tab, I'm able to order the modules in my navigation bar to what I need. So I can quickly have exactly what I want. I can hide modules that I don't personally care about, and then I'll have a lean, clean menu bar at the top for what I need to do. All right. Also, I would like to talk about if you have enterprise as an administrator, you can actually set fields based off of a role permission. So if I have a support team that needs certain roles visible on the main part of the business card for the account, I can set that up so when they log in and go to the account page, they'll see exactly what they need to see. So very good there. So yeah, just want to make sure that your screens are optimal to your environment. Yeah, so let's do this. All right, so I do want to talk a little bit about tabs versus panels. So if I go back to my admin panel, actually I'm going to go into my studio. So I have a studio, and I've preloaded these forms up so we don't have to wait for them to load. Got so much to go over today. But I'm in Studio. This is the contacts module. I'm in the layouts and I'm in the record view. And you can see that we have panels or tabs here. Basically what a panel will do is create the accordion panel that you're used to seeing. But if I flip that over to tabs, I'll get tabs up there. So if I go to my opportunities module here and I go to layouts and record view, you'll see that I've created a tab here with a panel underneath and then another tab next to it. So let's kind of see what that looks like. And there it is. There is my, I'm in the opportunities module here. And as you can see, I've got my business card, my panel of the show more here, and then a tab here on the side. So yeah, so while we're doing that, the next thing I have on my notes is to talk about organizing, or actually, let me do this real quick. There is my opportunity here. I'm going to go ahead and create a new opportunity. And I kind of want to talk about some of the things we can do with fields here in the opportunity to make it kind of useful to work with. So one thing that you'll notice in Sugar is that we have the ability to create required fields. And if I try to save a record, it'll highlight what's required. One thing that we want to do is make sure all the required fields are kind of grouped together. In here, you can see that I've got an opportunity name, widgets, we'll call this, the account name, we'll call this underwater mining. How did they hear about us? You know, these are things that you're probably going to have on your system. Next step is to do things, and I'm going to go ahead and save. And when you'll see what happens is that, first of all, I don't have things filled in correctly because I got a lot of errors. And if you noticed on here, we didn't see the required field down here at the bottom in product line. So now I have to pick one. I'll pick serve. And then in the panel, in the tab here, you'll see that I had another required field. So if I say yes, then I need another because so. So again, we want to keep our required fields together so we don't have to hunt and peck when we're trying to do these things, because we're going to want to have a quick way to go through and add that information. All right, so also on this information, I want to talk about a quick thing that I did, and this is a very underrated thing that's a field that people don't know about. And it's something that should be used pretty frequently because it's so easy and it's so powerful. And what I've done here is that, let's say this is an account and I want to know a quick way if this is a top account or not. Maybe like the top 5 accounts, the top 20% of our accounts are extremely important to our company, and anybody that comes into this account record, we want to know if this is a top account. So I've created a custom field here called is top account, and watch what happens when I check it. And what I've got here is I've got a hidden HTML field that all it does is HTML. I can't do any data entry in this, and it's visible only if this check mark is checked. And so now anytime that I come into this record, if this is checked, I'll see a very big red message at the very top saying this is a top account, be careful with them or do something. And some of the other cool things we can do with that is that we could actually make this visible if certain criteria is met. You know, if you are linked to your accounting software, if they have accounts payable that are due or late, you could have a warning note here for the account manager, which is kind of slick. And the real easy way to do that, I'll need to go back into my studio here, and let me go into studio. And what you'll see when I get in there is in the field, so that was the account field. I'll go to fields, and I created a checkbox, and here's that HTML field, and you get a really nice WYSIWYG editor to work with that. So you don't have to even know HTML to do something powerful. And basically all I did was make this dependent, and it's visible if a certain criteria is met. So that's a quick little thing on using a really powerful tool that not many people know about. All right, and then lastly on kind of setups on working with a record here is you'll notice that we have a lot of information down here. And, you know, if all these things are open, I can get inundated. You'll see a lot of these have more than 6 items, so I can't even see everything on here, and it's gonna be difficult to work with. So Sugar has a sub-panel search that not many people use. And if I use a wildcard, which is the % sign, so that means that I can get anything before that, I can type in the word message, and you'll see that it's going to filter everything down here into what fits. So you can see that warning message fits in here because there's 3 cases. So it's a quick way to get that in. As an account manager, there's going to be times where I'm just going to want to see what's coming up or what's happened in the last 7 days. So what I can do here is I can, in the related here, I can pull just a simple module there, or in the filter, I have oh, it's not letting me do it here. I have a way to create a filter here and add that create filter in there, but I'll show you that in another list of how I'm working. And then lastly, I just want to kind of quickly show something that's a very nifty little thing in Sugar that is an add-on. It's our customer journeys platform. So these are templates that you can add. Let me get to the, yeah, here we go, arts and crafts. In our template here, we can select one of our processes, hit the plus sign, and we will have a plugin of where we are in progress for this item or this opportunity. So you can have one for an opportunity, you can have one for support issues on cases, you can have one for a lead module where it's our qualification process. And these, when you click on the journey, you'll be adding these tasks, and things will show up automatically for the right people. These are templates, and then as you go through, you can check them off and see where you are in the process. And these are reportable, so quick little nifty thing to quickly make your lives a little easier in your processes there. All right. So that kind of sums up a bit of the tips and tricks on kind of setting up your Sugar. The next slide this is a fish. And after Jesse approved my slide deck, I was able to slide this fish picture in. I've always wanted to have a webinar with a fish, so there you go. But now let's working with lists. And I do have a motto that every account, contact, and lead has to have a next step. And that's because whoever you're working with, even if it's okay, they don't need anything, you still should reach out to them, 45 days, every quarter, and that's a next step. If you're lead qualifying, you probably definitely have a next step there. So what I want to kind of show now are tips and tricks on how I work with lists to make my life easier. Because with my ADD, I can't keep up with all the accounts and tasks and everything I need. So the first thing I do during the day is I have certain tasks that I have, and one of the philosophies that I present myself with is called keeping inbox at 0. And so I've got a sample Gmail account here with my emails, and I have 3 emails in here. And the idea behind an email 0 box is that you set aside a time of day or in a process of all you do is emails, and you're just going through your emails. And if it's something that you can do real quick, you can answer that email, respond, you can go knock that out. But if it turns into something that's a bit more than 5 minutes, what you're going to want to do is create a task. So I have one for one of my accounts, need to add some seats, and that is, it looks like it is an account on here. So what I would do then is go to my account, and in my tasks, and you can see why I want to have my tasks at the top, because it's important. So what I would do here is I would find my action items task, or I would create a new one and basically license add. And we want to keep our subject and our tasks uniform. So that way I'll be able to sort by subject and see exactly what I want to do. And that'll come to play here in a few minutes when I show you a lot of tasks in a list. Add 13 seats, and I'll give this a due date of tomorrow, and it's not started. One thing that you'll notice with my tasks is that I've taken out the start date. I only want to have one date. I don't personally care when I start something. I just need to know when it's done. So I'm going to leave my due date in here and just specifically work on due date. I personally don't care about time, but it has to be in here because it's a stat product or a stack field that comes with it. And you'll notice that because I did this from the account, it's already linked to my account. If I had created this task for my contact, the contact and the account would already be filled in. So one thing that I do is if I was to add a task, I would do it through the contact. But in this case, we always want to have a contact associated with this and also an account, so we can have that link. And then in the description, it's very important to have something description in here, because if this is a task that's a week out, I'm going to forget what this was all about, and I'll have to go in through all my items and research it. So email on 8/28 for 13 seats of sugar. And I'll go ahead and hit save, and that's all I need to do to have my task in there. On that. So that's what I do with my emails. I'll go through, and then once I get all my emails to inbox 0 or as close as I can get it before I have pressing needs and tasks, now I'm going to go into my tasks module here. And you'll see that I have basically here's every task that's in Sugar. And this is very hard to work with. I don't have a really clean way to know what I need to do right now. So what I can do here is filter this down, and I work with the filters and modules very specifically and quite frequently. And so what I can do here is on the filter down here, I can hit create. And when I do that, I'm going to get a list here of items that I want to filter by. So the first thing I want to do is I want to filter where the due date, because again, I'm only using one date, and that's the due date. And I'm going to want to see things that are in the next 7 days. And so while I'm doing that, it's going to filter my list to things that are due in the next 7 days. And you'll see that there's a lot of tasks in here. So I'm going to need to hit the plus sign here. And I'm going to filter this on where the assigned to is either my items or I pick myself as the assigned to. In this example, my name is Jen, which is very good. So here are my tasks that I have to work with. And then what I can do here, and the last thing I want is I want to see these drop off when the status goes to completed, if they ever do go to completed. So I'm going to add one more plus sign here. I'm going to pick status. I'm going to pick is any. I'm going to pick is completed. And I'll hit now. I'll have a list of, is not completed. And you can see as I'm working, it's going to keep filtering down what I need. If I give this list a name here, and I hit save, you'll see that my filter now has that saved in there, and it's going to do that every time. And let's say that I had a list and I completed this license add here that we just added. So I'm going to go ahead and hit close, and you'll see that when I hit refresh, it drops off this. So I have a very kind of like a reward system of keeping my task list clean. It removes it from the list. I know it's coming the next 7 days. I can order this by date due, and it'll take in the time. So if I need to do that as well, I can order that. But one thing that's really neat is I can click on the subject here, and then as I'm working through my day, when it's time for quarterly calls, I can go down my list of quarterly calls. Now, one thing that I do with lists is I'll hold my control key on my PC. If I'm on a Mac, I'll hit Command. And as I click on these links here, you'll see that they're going to open up a tab for each one that I click on. And what it's doing is basically it's loading up each record into a different tab. There's two reasons why I do this personally. One is I don't have to wait for Sugar to load it up every time. So if I take like 5 to 6 items, Sugar will load them up all at once. And then when I'm ready to hit my next quarterly call, I'll open up that tab and my data is already there. Sugar does take a few seconds to load up. It's doing a lot of processing. It's doing a lot of data calculations. So it kind of takes a bit to load up, especially if you are on a webinar and have a whole bunch of other things open, so it's slowing up. But what's nice about that is that now when I go into that task, I can pull that tab off the bar here and open it up in its new kind of alone state. And again, my machine's acting a bit slow due to the webinar and the call on here, but I'm able to in here click on links in that task. I can click on that account. I can click on that contact and have those tabs open up as well. So when I make that quarterly call, I'll have the contact that I need to call and the tab open. I'll have the account open. I'll have access to the history. I'll have access to the description in the task. And remember, we're going to have a very descriptive process in here. I think I hopefully didn't crater my machine here with too many open things. Let me close this one here. But the idea is that I have everything in front of me when I make that call, and I'm able to make it work really well. Let's see if this will pull off now. Yeah, so again, I can click on this link, I can click on this contact. In the description for a quarterly call, after I make the call, what I want to do then is I want to, in the contact, record that call as a call and put in there what we've talked about, because that will be my historical reference of that call for Evelyn here. But also in the description, I'm going to say what we're doing. Maybe from the quarterly call, I learned that emails are a problem for underwater mining. So I can say emails are a problem. I gave them some tips and they should be okay. Now, because I've logged my call as a record in the calls module under the contact, which will bubble up to the account. So if I come in here and I add my call here, and so I'll have this link to the account and contact that will talk about what I've done. I don't have to close this record. All I need to do now is kick out this date, 3 months, 2 months, whenever you're going to do another call, a check-in call, and then hit save. And now I'll know in November that the last time I talked to them, emails were a problem, and I gave them some tips. So now when I talk to them, I'll be like, hey, Evelyn, how are those tips on your emails? I don't have to do any research. I can see it all here in my task, and I can go forward. So kind of keep in mind when you're creating descriptions, be descriptive. Take an extra minute to do that. And then when you do hit your task, you won't have to do as much research. You can just plow through your tasks. All right. So that is kind of how I work with my lists there. Some of the other things that we want to do is that in tasks itself, let me close these two. So you can see that I'm done with that, and I can go to my next quarterly call, which is already loaded up, and work on that. So me personally, I separate my items and tasks in three main categories. and then if there's an offshoot on something, I can do that. But if I have a renewal coming up, I'll have a renewal task. If I have just a general check-in, I call it a quarterly. And then if there's some action items, like let's say that somebody's got a project that they just released and you need to follow up on things, I can put all my action items in a task here as well. And what I like to do in here is that I'll list them. So, like one thing is run report, need this by 8:30, and then 2, upload data from dev team. Jesse will get this to us by Friday, and then I'll have like 8:35. Did we get there? Get a response. And so what I do then is I make my due date go to the next available item here. So I can keep all my action items in one list. When I do talk to Mary, I can go through this list and say, here are my action items, here we are with each one, and this is what I'm expecting due today. So it's a great way to kind of help project manage your tasks if you have a bunch of action items with somebody. And you can combine them into the quarterly call, like we could just have action items listed in your call here and just use that as well. So that's a quick way of how I work with my tasks and stay in keeping with the next step with every one of my accounts or contacts or leads. All right, you'll notice that I also have taken out the priority field. I personally don't care about priority. Everything is a high priority in my world, apparently. So there are times though when something is a super high priority. So instead of having another field for me to worry about, I can just go to the favorite star here and just click that. So that you're going to see that on my confirm. My task list. So when you see a list of my items here, maybe I can go through here and say, this is a high priority. And then I have the ability to filter my favorites. So I can just get to my priority items really quick, really fast, and then knock those out first. So I have several ways to work with my filters here, and I can see which ones are high priorities by using the favorite flag rather than using a status, which is going to be buried in the data. Jesse, is there any kind of questions or information that people are asking yet?
Yeah, we have quite a few questions, Aaron. I don't know how far along you are in the content.
Yeah, throw me a question. I could use one.
One question was asked within a task list. Can I show a formatted text field or icon to highlight later that there is something important about the task, i.e., checkbox indicating a sales follow-up call is needed?
Sure. So you can create a custom. I think if I understand right, you want to create like either a custom field or some signal that something's important. And so let me come back here. Let's go back to a task list here. Where is it? Here we go. So one thing you can do in Sugar is that you can put your custom fields in this row here, and this is another good thing to talk about is in the columns here. I don't care about date modified and date created, so I'm going to remove those by clicking this gear icon, and you'll see that as I do that, it'll stretch out fields here. So maybe if you put your description in here, you might be able in your real estate to see that. I don't care about the assigned to user. You can see that I'm getting more and more space here because all I need to see is the subject, the contact, the account, the due date, and maybe the description. But in your case, the question was saying, how do I see some visual? And again, I can use that HTML field, right? So I could have a checkbox that says is important, and then have like an HTML column that has a big green box that says important, and that's one way to do that. So, or you can use the favorite, which I do. But I like that question. That's a good one. All right, so we'll do some more questions later. I was just in the mood for a question. The next page I have here is that I want to talk a couple of quick things about emails. And the quote I used here is, "I love everything about emails, said no one ever." And that's a bad joke, I know, but hey, I'm a dad and I can do bad jokes. So one thing I'm going to show you here is that in your profile, I'm going to talk about just a couple of quick things. First of all, if you go to your drop-down arrow here next to your pretty picture and hit profile, this is where I'm at, and I clicked edit, and or you don't have to click edit, I was already there, but in the downloads tab, you're going to see a free plugin for your Sugar Outlook. Now, this works for desktop versions of Outlook only. I highly recommend every single one of your users has this plugin because it'll allow you from your Outlook to archive your emails with just a couple of clicks. You'll be able to sync in your meetings if that's data that is important to you. And so it's very important to integrate whatever email platform you're using. I would say very few people use the Sugar email platform in Sugar because there's so many other tools out there like Outlook, like Gmail, that have integrations that just work so much better. If you are on a MacBook, this will not work. And if you're using Gmail or using the, I believe the online version of Outlook, this plugin doesn't work. This only works for your desktop. However, talk to me when you do talk to me, because there are very cheap options that give you a huge amount of functionality in Gmail, in MacBooks, in your website Outlook. So and plus mobile on that as well. So very important. Get that plugin or get a plugin to integrate, and your life will be so much better for it. Also, in your user profile, you're going to notice at the bottom under email settings that your email address is going to be in here. And if I flip the switch from Sugar email client to external email client, what that will mean is that it will turn all the email links in Sugar into clickable action items. When I click on it, it'll open up my email client and create a message or start a message with the email address in there. I'm on a test version here, so I don't know if this will work live, but there's always one way to find out. So you'll notice that if I go down into contacts and I click on Doc Turtle, what it's going to do is, I'll leave that, sure. It's going to open up my Outlook, because I use Outlook, and create the email with that. Sometimes it does take a little bit, and here it is on my other screen. You can see that it throws it in there automatically. So there's that. But sometimes, if you're in a hurry and don't want to do that, something else that I've noticed is that you can take an email and drag it and drop it into whatever field you want. Now, it's going to have that mail to there, so you can quickly get rid of that, but that's a quick way where you can drag and drop an email address out of your browser into something else, maybe instead of having to copy that. So that's a quick thing, but again, set up your profile to do the email setting here, and your life will be a little bit better there as well. Okay, so those are some quick tips and tricks on emails. That brings me, and we are running out of time here, but I am happy to spend the next 5-10 minutes asking Q&A questions. So Jesse, do you want to, oh, I went too far. Do you want to fire off some Q&A for me?
Absolutely, and just as a reminder, everyone, I am recording today's session, so if you need to jump off for any reason while we're answering, there's all kinds of questions that we've got in the queue. Don't worry, you'll get a copy of today's recording once it's processed. Okay,
and I'll answer every question. So any question answer here, you get free support from me on this. Well, up to a reason. I'm not going to spend like huge amounts of minutes on it, but I love questions. People who've talked to me before on this webinar are going to know that I love to talk all things business and sugar. So ask away.
So we had one question that was just general best practices question, and they just wanted to know what modules most sales customers find most important. So
yeah,
that would be a sales user.
Yeah, no, this is great. So out of the box, Sugar has several modules that all work together for a sales cycle. And they do that because they got to appeal from the mom and pop one-person user shop to the hundreds or thousands of user shops that we work with in big business. So the first module is called the targets module, and that's usually used for when you buy like tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands of contacts, or get a huge list that you may not know. I would say maybe 4 to 5% of my accounts use the targets module. It's rarely used. Most people will start with the leads module. And in the leads module, that's typically in a general sales cycle, the leads are where you're going to want to do your qualification. Does this lead meet my budget concerns? Do they have a need for my product? Do they qualify for what we need to do? And then once your lead is a good fit as an opportunity, there's like a clear need, a budget, etc., we'll convert that lead into an account contact. And that's where you're going to work that prospect now into a customer. And when that opportunity close won, then we can even do things like automation, like set up a workflow to alert the accounting team to onboard them into the accounting software, flip the status in the account from prospect to client, etc. So typically, I would say about 90% of my accounts use leads and accounts contacts. Some of my accounts just use contacts and account and have their leads in there. They don't have very many leads. They work with like a very specific group. Maybe they only go after Fortune 50 companies, and they don't need leads. They're already accounts in there. So it just depends on the setup of how you want it done. But I would say generally leads, accounts, and contacts for your personal stuff, and then opportunities for your opportunities and quotes in there.
Great, thank you. And here's a quick customization question. They wanted to know if it's possible to change the time in Sugar from military, standard, or back and forth.
Yeah, that should be in your profile setting. It should be there. If not, then it is a global setting on there, but in your, I think it's the advanced tab. Let's see, here it is here on locale settings. So time format, I don't want that. I want 11 p.m. instead of 23, and I can change my time zone there. So that's in your profile settings. And when you first log into Sugar the first time, it'll walk you through Wizard to set that up.
Okay, great, thanks. Next question. What do you recommend is the best way to see a running history of entries? For example, email, order, calls, tasks, etc., for an account?
Right. So that's a great question too. With an account, so I work out of accounts. The accounts are kind of like that staging area where everything is combined. Now, what's neat about Sugar is that when I add a call, I can link that to a contact and an account, so I can know specifically who that call's associated to, and see all that information in the account. So if I want to see kind of like you're basically asking for an all activities report, because I want to see like all the activities, and you'll notice that in Sugar, when you do reports, you have to do one for calls, tasks, meetings. There's a couple ways we can do this. First, let me hit cancel here so I can get to my drop-down arrow. One thing we have here is a historical summary in the drop-down. So again, I'm in the account, I click my arrow, I click historical summary, and it's going to group everything for this account, meeting, call, et cetera, et cetera. The problem is I don't have a way to really filter this here. I can sort by date modified. I can, if I hover over, I can see the whole email or the whole information of something, but it's a bit limited there. Another thing I can do here is that with our SugarCare package, some of the packages have our Sugar Toolkit associated with there, and we do have an all activities report in that Sugar Toolkit. So for somebody that joins our SugarCare package, you can get our Sugar SugarCare Toolkit, which will have a report on all activities, and you can use that. And then another thing we can do is, filter this down to, just see records that are in a certain filter here. So for some reason, my filter is not working while I'm doing a live demo, but I would filter this to maybe like the last 7 days and see that there. Something cool that we can do with the intelligence panel is that if there's like calls that I want to see in the last 7 days, but I don't want to scroll because, like, again, I hate scrolling. It's such a waste of my finger and calories. So during a setup, I can create or add a new dashboard here in the intelligence panel, and if I pick list view, and then I pick, let's say, calls, or actually I got one even set up for, let's say I want to see all the contacts that are primary billing contacts for this account, because I don't want to cycle through 30 contacts to see who I need to send bills to. So I can create a filter here where, oh, I didn't even add it here. Okay, so I can have like a checkbox that says billing contact, and then see that. So let's say that I want to see calls from the last 7 days. So I'll pick my calls here, and I'll say I don't care about the end date. I want to see, I don't care about user or date created. And then see this relate to current record. If I check that, it's going to link my calls to the calls module, and then I'll hit, and then I want to have a filter for calls that are the start date are in the next 7 days, and I'll hit save. So now what I've got here is I've got I'll give this a title, calls-lit, and hit save. And what I've got here now is, instead of scrolling now to find the calls module, let's say that it's buried in here and I have everything open. If I have a call in the next 7 days, it's going to show up here. Now, you notice that I used a list view here and not the one that is the out of the box activities or inactive tasks. I don't like the dashlets that come of like active tasks that are due, because it's too big, and you only get to see like 3 to 4 records without having to scroll. I just want to see data. I don't care to see the picture. I don't care who it is. I don't want to have to flip through upcoming and do now. I just don't like this dashlet. I like it in a list. My background's in data, and I just want to pound a list, to be honest. I don't want to have to flip through things. I think I just went way over all over the place on that question, but I think I gave you guys some good information on that question.
Yeah, thanks, Aaron. So we're just at the top of the hour, and I know there's all kinds of questions. So I'm just going to let you know that we're going to get all of your answers, all your questions answered. I've got a file here where I'm keeping track. So I'll shoot them over to Aaron.
All your questions belong to us.
Yeah, I'll shoot them over to Aaron after the presentation. I just want to make sure we get you out of here at the top of the hour, and we'll take care of them. So don't worry about that. So Aaron, if you want to throw up your contact information or that final slide, if you'd like, in your PowerPoint presentation deck, and take us home.
Yeah, I forgot to put my name in here. So you can reach me at aaron.wine@faybsg.com, and you can reach me at 818-280-4812. So I look forward to hearing from your calls, look forward to hearing from your emails. I will definitely answer your questions. This was a fun webinar for me. Thank you for putting up with my pathetic excuses for jokes, and putting up with my screen issues. But other than that, I think hopefully there's some good takeaways for a lot of you out there to be lean and mean with your sugar going forward.
Great, thanks, Aaron. Thanks everyone for joining us again. Hope you enjoyed our presentation and our image of a fish. And enjoy the rest.
I've got that in.
All right. Take care, everyone. Thanks.